God, wherever I go, no matter how far I wander, you always draw me back to you. You made me to experience life with you, life in all its fullness. It saves me from chasing after happiness that doesn't lead to happiness, the kind that's empty and short-lived. Help me to follow you, be shaped by you, and to narrow my heart's focus on what you say brings joy. Help me find the strength and clarity to experience your abundant life. And through your power, surrender any empty joys that are hard to give up, so that I may see you and what you see, life in all its fullness.
All right. Good morning, church. Good morning. I love when you're awake. That sounds so great. Hey, welcome to church. I'm really glad that you're here. And if you've been here for decades or this is your first time, most of you is somewhere in between those two extremes. But whatever your story is, we're really glad that you're here today. So we're wrapping up this series called Happier Ahead. And this is week 6, so hopefully you got your little dry-proof little bag giveaway and are excited about that. But more importantly, we hope that it will remind you of truths that you've been learning as we've been on this journey. So today we're going to dive into a passage of Scripture that will be familiar to some of you. It will be familiar to you because it was also very familiar to the audience that Jesus preached the sermon. It's the Sermon on the Mount, and it's his most famous of sermons. And it's found in Matthew 5, 6, and 7, and we're just going to look at a little section of it. But this would be a sermon that Jesus would repeat often. And so I'm imagining that his disciples were like, oh no, here he goes again, that sermon, right? Maybe you've had that same sensation. Hopefully not. There's confession time over to the right of the stage later. But today we're going to dig in and see kind of from a unique perspective what he has to say about how we react to things. I've entitled this Reactions Speak Louder Than Words, right? You may know the phrase actions speak louder than words, but reactions speak louder than both words and our actions. How we react. See, most of us can behave. You know what's appropriate behavior. When you go to a wedding, when you come to church, when you have dim sum with family, we know how to behave, how to be polite, respectable, to not cause a stir. That's how we act. But react, that's when you're pushed. That's when you feel some heightened level of anxiety. To react is sometimes uncontrollable. That's what comes out. And it tells the full story, doesn't it? It reveals what has been lurking within all along. And so reactions are important. They reveal to yourself and to an onlooking world kind of who you are. And sometimes it's not your best self. You've probably seen reactions of people, either in person or video clips online of that person that's yelling and screaming at the ticket agent, I will get on this plane, and they end up getting in all sorts of trouble. Or the people on the plane, you've seen clips like that. Right, where I saw one recently where there was a guy, sitting behind this other guy, and the guy in the front, he moved his seat back, and the guy behind kicked it, and he did this, and they did this little thing, and then it led to move your seat, and blah, 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 and they're just screaming, and of course, every camera is out videoing it, and they call the flight attendant, this poor lady, what is she supposed to do? And she's pleading with them, just settle down, it's gonna be okay. Trying to appeal to reason, but reason has left the plane, right? And they are just over 3 inches. Is it really about 3 inches? Or is there something more? Is there pride? Is there arrogance? Nobody tells me what to do. There's always something more, and reactions reveal, don't they? And so we're going to have a look at what Jesus says about reactions. He will say in Matthew chapter 5, "You have heard that it was said." And he appeals to just a common known way of how life is lived. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Just a reciprocal relationship. That is the common way life is lived, right? I scratch your back, you scratch mine, right? That there is this kind of transactional way that we approach life, that you get what you give, that it works out that way. He said, this is how the world works. You've heard it said, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. And they're nodding. Yeah, that's the way the world works. And then he says, but I tell you. And in contrast, he says, I'm going to paint a different picture. And he says, now we have to be careful here, because he says, do not resist an evil person. Now, we have to be careful because we need to understand he's not talking about self-protection. That's natural, right? But what he's talking about is resisting the opportunity that comes to you when you have a chance to retaliate, but you choose not to. Now, he's not advocating, hey, if you've lived with an abusive husband or wife, just endure it for the sake of Jesus. I mean, that is not what Jesus is saying. But he's saying in the course of life, we all face criticism. We all faced harshness. We all faced undeserved consequences, unfair bosses. We all face things in life that are difficult. And Jesus will say, it's not your goal just to endure. It is to seize the opportunity that comes your way. Do not resist this opportunity when difficult things or difficult people come your way. And then he's going to give an example, and another example, and another example. And as he does this, he touches on a variety of different categories, if you will, of life, of relationships, of money, of generosity, of all these different areas, just as an example to highlight this counterintuitive way of living life. And so he will say, if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. Now, again, you got to understand it, because at first glance, you're like, there's no way I'm living like that. Is Jesus advocating being a doormat, being taken advantage of, diminishing your voice? No, not at all. So understand the cultural setting. He says, if you are slapped on the right cheek. Now, most people are right-handed. So to be slapped on the right cheek means it's a backhand slap, right? You're doing it now, right? You're like left, right. Oh yeah, that's how I do it. Okay, he says, if that's what happens, see, this is not a provocation to anger. This isn't like, come on. This isn't like, I'm going to punch you out. This is not an actual fist fight. This is a provocation of insult. I mean, it hurts the pride more than it hurts the body. It's an invitation to engage. It's, come on, you ready? You're going to retaliate? And he says, if anybody gives you that insult, don't take the bait. Don't dive into the mud. Don't let your emotions get the best of you. Don't think you have to respond. You don't have to win. You don't have to have the final word. He says, manage your reactions. Say, really? Here you go. Turn to them the other cheek, metaphorically speaking. And then he says, okay, let me give you another example. If anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. Say, it's not about the shirt or the coat. I'm not going to get embroiled in this argument, this fight. It's not worth it to me. Here you go. Don't let others provoke you. Don't think you are controlled by them. You're not. Manage your reactions. Then he will say, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Now, our English Bible says 1 mile. It literally says 1,000 paces or 1,000 steps. And one of the laws they had in that time was that if any Roman soldier or government official needed assistance, they could find a common citizen and say, I need you to carry this. And you were required by law to carry it for 1,000 paces, 1 mile. And that caused the citizenry to avoid making eye contact with leaders, right? I don't want to do it. I know I have to do it. And he says, that is the setting. When you want to avoid, he says, don't do that. Offer to double. Yeah, how can I help? Where are we going? See, this is not like when a friend says, hey, can you pick me up at the airport? And you're like, of course, no problem. That's a friend. This is not a friend. This is an official who's using power to exert forced behavior, and people resented it. And he says, that's common. Everybody resents it, being forced to do something. He says, but what if you didn't? What if you said, sure, where are we going? Let me help you. What if your attitude, your reaction was not what people expected, not what everybody else did? And then he says, give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. Now, in this world, everybody kind of lived in tight quarters. The rich and the poor were neighbors. They were all nestled within. The haves and the have-nots were right there. And he says, if somebody who doesn't have something asks you and you have extra, then why don't you give your extra to the one who doesn't have it? Just willingly do it. Give them the dignity and the extra that you don't need. Be different in how you react. And then he says, you've also heard it said. And he gives another famous quote, right? Love your neighbors and hate your enemy. And everybody's like, yeah, that's how it works. Isn't that how it works? It's easy to love your neighbor and hate your enemy. I mean, who loves their enemy, right? That's stupid. That's unnatural. He says, you have heard it this way, but I tell you, love your enemies. And he's not talking about some kind of warm, fuzzy feeling inside. Oh, I just love them when they hate on me and criticize me. No, he says, no. I want very practically for you to kind of change not only your disposition, but your behavior. I want you to choose to live above the fray. I want you to not be transactional. I want you to not just give what is deserved, but to be gracious and to love people who don't deserve it. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Now, at that point, I imagine they're going, whatever. Pray for them. And most of you are probably like, you know what? The whole prayer thing, I don't pray enough. But when I do, I pray for like my family and maybe my care group, like on a good day. And then I say, and God, here's some stuff I need. That's kind of my prayer life. Now, you want me, my prayer life, already not amazing, and you'd like for me to add to my list of things to pray for, and you want me to think about enemies. I'm not sure how that's going to work. Pray for those who persecute you, who criticize you, who are not for you, who undermine you, who talk trash about you. Hey, I pray for them. That you may be children of your Father in heaven. That you may live a life that is so counterintuitive, that is so different, that it says you're not just a Christian, but you're a Christ follower. It's not just what you believe, but it's how you live. That it is totally different. This is not just kind of a slight upgrade from your otherwise moral behavior. This is a total upend of how you navigate life so that you may be identified as belonging to a God who utterly redefines what life is like. That you may be children of your Father in heaven. And then he asks rhetorically, if you love those who love you, what reward will you get? What recognition do you get? If you do what everybody does, literally, love those who love you, I mean, there is no effort involved in that at all. And he says, if that's all you've got in life, if that's kind of your boundary, you love people who love you, big whoop. What recognition does that deserve? And he says, are not even the tax collectors the most detestable group of people? Aren't they? Don't they do that? Like the worst people do that? And if you greet only your own people. This is interesting because he calls them out for being kind of insular, of being limited, of hanging out, welcoming only those people that it's easy to be with. Now, you get this, right? We all get this because we all have our own people. People that it's easy to be with, that you can just let your hair down. They get you, they accept you, they understand you. Maybe it's people in your same stage of life, or it's your same race or ethnicity, or your same language, or your same career. People that you're like, oh, those are my people. I mean, when I'm with them, it's easy. These other, it just requires a little bit. But he says, if you just never force yourself outside of your own comfort zone, if you only welcome your own people, what are you doing more than others? Everybody does that. Everybody clicks with people that it's easy to be with. But everybody does that. You should be doing more than. See, God has done more than for us. And ultimately, that's going to be his case. He's going to say, live like your Father in heaven who loves you more than you deserve. And why don't you live more than? Do not even pagans do that? People without faith, don't they love their own people? Be perfect, therefore, he says, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Now, this is not a call to perfection because you blew that so long ago, right? I mean, none of us is perfect. But what he's saying is, your Father who is perfect, who has loved you in spite of you, more than you deserve, emulate him. Like, use that love as a model, as a guide, as an impetus to love others. Let that be the standard. Don't just reciprocate to others. Everybody does that. Be more than. and access how God has loved you. And like him, who is perfect, demonstrate this kind of lavish love more than others. He calls us to a different standard. He says, if you want to be my follower, it's not about just believing something, it's about living it out. It's about your belief system being fleshed out in your behavior. It's about your heart being changed from the inside out and being so changed that it is remarkable, it is visible, it is noteworthy to those who observe. It is more than. It is shocking. It is different. He says, be excessive. Be unreasonable. Be irrational. Don't limit to what other people do. Be lavish because God has been. Be freed up from a constant scorekeeping of who owes who forgave who insulted who hurt who. Throw away the scorecard and look to God, and then be lavish. Be freed and live in a way that your reactions are not normal. You know, I was driving home, this has been several months back, leaving the church, and I was by myself, and I got through the tunnel. I live in Clearwater Bay area, and so I got through the Eastern Tunnel, and as I came out of the tunnel, there was this sports car that was right up on me. And I was kind of watching it, and he was revving his engine, and I was, am I going 20 kilometers an hour? And no. I was like, what in the world? It's all of a sudden I could already feel my heart rate going up, right? And it was this incredible yellow sports car. And I'm just like, doo-doo-doo, you know. And he's like, and as soon as that solid line breaks into a line where he could cross it, he got around me, and then he pulled out right in front of me again, as if to play this power play, like, look at my car or whatever. I was like, dude, just go. I mean, I'm just a little pastor driving home from work. I'm not playing. And that was kind of like his insult, I guess. And then he took off. And then I saw him do this, and he's weaving, you know, because he can, just whatever. You know, I was like, okay, wow, look at you. And then there's this V in the road, and I go left to go to where I live. But before I got there, I could see, this is like 1 minute later. And he had done this, and then he hit the side, the concrete, and they wrecked his car. And I could already see he was out of the car, right? And so he was fine physically. And I was like, as I turned off to the left, I was, I mean, oh, right? I almost wanted to just circle around and like, beep, beep, vroom, vroom. Who's driving now? My reaction, right, wasn't very pastoral. Wasn't my finest moment, but I was like, dude, you took me up to this like tense level and just antagonized me. What did I do? And then it was that whole, well, karma, look at that. What goes around comes around. But I mean, it's not normal, right? To react like he's telling us to, because he's speaking about reactions, not just actions. We know how to act well. How about reacting well? So, did the disciples get it? They heard him preach the sermon so many times. Love those who hate you. Somebody wants to borrow, say, sure, do you need more? Somebody's going to sue you, give them, you want my coat as well? Forgive 70 times 7. It's always excessive, above and beyond. And to the disciples, they heard this, they watched this. Did they get it? That is the question I wanted to know. So we dig in, right? There's a passage in Scripture in Luke 9 where it says Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem. And scholars will say that this verse is like the hinge verse of the whole book. It's when Jesus has done his public ministry, and now he is resolutely setting out for Jerusalem where he will be crucified. It kind of divides the book of Luke. And it seems like just a simple sentence, but it changes the whole trajectory of his life and his ministry. He sets out and he's headed to Jerusalem. And he sent messengers on ahead who went into a Samaritan village to get things ready for him. Now, most of us are familiar with Samaritan, right? You've heard the story of the Good Samaritan, this parable that Jesus tells. And we might remember that Samaritans and Israelites, Jews, didn't get along. They were different. They had a different belief system. And they believed, for one thing, that their holy mountains, their holy pilgrimages were in different places. For Jews, it was in Jerusalem. Mount Moriah was a holy place where they believed that that's where Abraham offered his son Isaac on Mount Moriah. But for the Sadducees, they thought, no, Mount Gerizim, that is where everything happened. That is where Isaac was with Abraham. They believed a lot of different things, and so they had this theological enmity that led to social strife and personal competition. And then Jesus, on his way to Jerusalem, sends them out to a Samaritan village. Now, interestingly, the Samaritans are alive today. Did you know that? I mean, they are still a sect today, diminishing in numbers. Only 900 or so still exist. Their existence is being threatened, and so they had to change some of their laws. So they are importing brides from all over countries so that they can have more babies and create more Samaritans. Interesting, I watched a 20-minute documentary on this on YouTube this week. That's what I do on my Thursday. What do you do? Fascinating, actually. So this mount that is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, actually, this is Gerizim right here, where people go as a pilgrimage to see, right? So this was kind of the place that they argued, this is our holy place. Point being, the Samaritans and the Israelites have this battle, this enmity. But nonetheless, Jesus says, go ahead and prepare. But the people there did not welcome him because he was headed for Jerusalem, simply because of where he was going, which revealed what he believed. The Samaritan village said, no, not welcome here, different than us. So James and John enter in. The disciples, James and John, when they saw this, now remember that John will be the one that says the most famous Bible verse ever, John 3:16. He wrote it. So poetic. For God so loved the world. Right? That's John. That he gave his only son. It would be John that would write in 1 John, God is love. I mean, he's like the hippie disciple. God is love, man. That's John. I mean, he's like the peace, like the Zen, the hippie disciple. God is love. So James and John, they hear this report. They're not welcome in Samaria. And quite lovingly, I presume, say, Lord, do you want us to call fire down from heaven to destroy them? I mean, that's their reaction. It's hardly more than. I mean, at the first sign of rejection, their gut reaction is, hey, Jesus, we thought about it, but what do you think? Destroy them with fire? Is that good? I mean, I take heart from this because sometimes that's my gut reaction. It's not always good. They didn't get it, at least for a while. That was what they wanted to do. And Jesus turns and rebukes them. And he said, sent his disciples to another village. So he rebukes them for that reaction. So Jesus has an expectation for how we react. And he rebuked them for having the wrong conclusion. They didn't get it. And sometimes we don't either. Let me show you the scene of the crime. This is actually where I live, right here. And we have a little garden out back, and we had this little outdoor carpet that over time had just gotten all sorts of dirt in it. It was just filthy. And so I take it out behind where I live in this empty space here, and I hooked up water hose to my faucet, bring it out here, and I'm just cleaning it up, right? And all of this is running down, so it's downhill toward this way. You see steps are right here. So I'm just getting all this dust out. There's nobody that lives next door to us. It's vacant. And so as I do it, there's this place here where water runs down and goes down eventually to the ocean. And so I'm cleaning it all up. I get it clean, and I take it back, and I'm drying it out in my little garden area. And what I didn't realize is that in doing that, it also flowed down this way. And this is where John and Betty live, not their real names. Yeah, it's not pretty. And if you go down here and you turn right, you can see this is a little entrance into their side area and another place, and where John and Betty live. And evidently, my mud and dirt all went down the steps and turned right, and then went and kind of flooded John and Betty's area. So I'm in my backyard, very content over how productive I've been, cleaning up this rug, restoring it, keeping it, and the door knocks. And guess who? Betty. I don't know where John is, but Betty is there, and she's bringing the heat. Now, we had only lived there for less than a year at the time, and we had seen John and Betty and had polite little chit-chat as we're walking dogs or whatever. We knew where they lived. They obviously knew where I lived. But we'd never really had a meal or anything, just polite chat. And Betty comes, and she is furious. And she goes after it. There's no, easy entry into this. I thought, had Betty come and said, I know you just cleaned out your carpet. You probably didn't realize, but it got all over my area. Do you mind? I would have been like, oh, Betty, so sorry. I didn't realize. Yes, let me just come clean it up. That would have been nice. That's not how it went. Betty comes, and she's fuming. She's mad. She goes, when you cleaned out your carpet, all the dirt went all over our place. It's so filthy. I can't believe you would do that. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. She goes, you need to come and clean it right now. I said, oh, okay. I don't think Betty knows I'm a pastor, so please don't tell her. It makes it awkward. So I'm like, okay. So I go and I hook my thing back up and I'm cleaning it, and I'm kind of, Betty. And, but I'm like, okay, yeah, I made this mess. I didn't mean to, and I'm cleaning it up. And as I'm going, I'm thinking, okay, I should really do extra mile. I should clean it. Not just my stuff, but I should clean up the rails and the walls, and that would be nice, right? And it's like God kind of gave me this idea. And then I'm like, but Betty. And I didn't actually pray it, but I did suggest to Jesus, do you want me to call down fire to destroy John and Betty? Because it's biblical, right? John did it. Thought crossed my mind. I said, oh, okay, no, because love your neighbor as yourself. And I'm like, okay, they're like 2 doors down. Is that my neighbor? I'm pretty sure it is. Oh, Betty and John. And, but God just kind of kept saying, you should go extra. You should do it. So I was like, okay, I can do it. I'll clean it up. And I went and I got Clorox bleach and I scrubbed. But part of me was like, oh, she'll see it and she'll feel bad. She'll feel bad. I spent so much time out here. How's that feel, Betty? That's what's going on inside of me. Yeah. But I did it. Cleaned it up and it looked great, way better than it's doing now. And these lines are not working at protecting this house like they're supposed to. Just saying. Anyway, I cleaned it up. And I went back, and I just I kept waiting. I thought, okay, she's seen me, she's heard me, she lives right there, right? She knew I was out there, like for a couple of hours. I kept waiting, she's gonna come and say, hey, it just looks so good, thank you so much. And I'm still waiting for that. No Betty. But I've seen Betty so many times since, and we're like kind of friends now. Not like have dinner together friends, but like stop and chat. Oh, your dog, how's he doing? How old is he? Like more than is required, the just basic head nod, hello thing, we stop. There's like an unspoken kindness. Now, I don't know if it came because of that, and I get no credit for that because my heart was so bad, right? But it was a moment of wrestling. Now, stairs and dirt, it's kind of silly, but that's like where faith is lived out, isn't it? Like doing church is pretty easy. Like nobody's having an outburst right now, right? But it's where faith is lived out, where reactions get pushed, where your stress, your anxiety is at its end, where people and circumstances and things squeeze you. That's where Jesus is saying, manage your reactions. It's an opportunity. Like you can go toe-to-toe, you can retaliate, you can win the battle, you can lose the war. He's saying it's an opportunity for how you react to actually make a statement. It's so hard. It's perhaps why Peter gives us this vivid picture of Jesus. See, he didn't just preach about it, he lived it out. He didn't just expect it of his followers, he modeled it for us. And Peter will tell us that when they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. It's pretty amazing. I mean, whatever you're facing, it's not like crucifixion level. And yet Jesus, even then, did not retaliate. He managed his reactions. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly. See, that's the choice. The instead, it gives us the AB. You can retaliate or you can entrust. You can respond and react, or you can entrust. And Jesus, instead, he entrusted himself. And so as we wrap up, I just want to leave you with 3 truths to help you entrust yourself. To help you in those moments, 3 truths to kind of run through your brain to help de-escalate situations and cause you to see an opportunity not just to muddle through, but to shine in. The first one is this, is that God sees. That he sees, he's intimately aware. He sees the stairs and the mud and Betty. He sees every little detail in your life. Your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. See, so much of our anger, our reactions could be notched down if we were just seen. If somebody just said, God, that's got to be tough. All of a sudden, it just got less tough because somebody acknowledged it's tough. Empathy is so powerful. Empathy from God? How powerful is that? The God sees. He knows. He gets you. He knows your struggle. He knows everything about you. He knows your temperament. He knows your weaknesses. He sees. You need to remember that. In those moments, like, okay, God gets me. God understands. It's all right. He's here. He's in this. I don't have a faith life and other life. It's all a faith journey. Secondly, is that God reigns. This is a whole sermon I won't give you today, but it's so powerful to be able to pull back and to go, yeah, God's in control. In a world that seems out of control, in a work chaos that seems out of control, in a family dynamic that may seem out of control, you pull back and go, no, God reigns. It's not like he's so busy caring for this part of the world that this one spins out of control. And then he's like, oh, okay, let me handle North America for a minute. Asia, just you're on your own, you know? He reigns supreme over all. When Jesus was in front of Pilate, it's such an interesting transaction. Pilate is conflicted. He's offended by Jesus, but he's also nervous with this power that Jesus seems to have, this peace that he brings to crisis. Do you refuse to speak to me? Pilate says to Jesus. Don't you realize I have power either to free you or to crucify you? Jesus answered, you would have no power over me if it weren't given to you from above. All power is given by God. He is over every org chart. You don't like your boss? Guess what? God put him there or her there. He's over them all. Jesus says to Pilate, look, the only reason you have power over me is that God allowed it. God put you in power over me, so there it is. And all of a sudden, this recognition, this realization, this remembering that God is the one that is above all things, it infuses such peace within us. Nobody has power over you. You don't have to be seduced into retaliating. Nobody makes you feel a certain way. Nobody. You go, no. God is over all of this. Nobody has power over you, meaning they can make you feel a certain way. You are to manage your emotions and your reactions. And Jesus says, yeah, you may be over me, but guess who's over you? Huh? From then on, Pilate tried to set Jesus free. He was nervous. He realized there's more to it than that. And then lastly, God vindicates. God sets it right. You don't need to fight all the battles. You don't need to have the last word. You don't need to win the argument. You just don't have to. You might, but you don't have to. Your sense of worth and value and dignity is not incumbent upon you showing them, getting back. You don't have to do any mic drop moments and walk away. You can just live life because God vindicates. What shall we say in response to these things? Paul writes, right after he has told us in Romans 8:28, God causes everything to work together for good. He brings good about everything that happens. What shall we say? What is our response to this truth? Paul proposes. If God is for us, who can be against us? It is God who justifies. Who then is the one who condemns? No one. No one. Paul takes it to its logical conclusion. He says, God is in the heavens. He is above all things. He's the Alpha and the Omega. Now, what are you upset about again? What do you think God can't handle? What little trite argument are you embroiled in? What misunderstanding? What circumstance has you bothered? Because God is above all of this. And he vindicates. If he is for you, who can be against you? What a great question. Some of you need to write this down on a little 3x5 card, and the next time you have some little tiff with your boss, you need to go, oh, wait just a second, I got to read this card. Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, what were you saying? Oh, you need to get the truth in your head. You need to take these truths into your heart. You need to live it out. You need to be unflustered, unoffendable, because you are more than. Because you're a Christ follower. You don't have to be manipulated by every little turn of wind of every conversation. You don't have to be paranoid about what are they saying or thinking about me. You don't have to be. You can rise above it. Yes, you get your feelings hurt, but you don't live there. You don't stay there. You can manage your reactions. You are more than. Because God has been more than for us. Your reactions speak louder than words. Father, we are grateful for the privilege of your word. We thank you that there's such vivid, living, human examples, fleshly examples of reactions like James and John. And maybe we've never prayed that fire would consume someone, but whatever it is we have felt, certainly we find comfort in knowing that even James and John felt this way. But God, that's not the standard. You set the standard. And you were on a cross, and you chose not to retaliate. When they taunted you with saying, if you're really the king of the Jews, and get yourself down, show your power, and you didn't take the bait because your purpose was far greater. You were not derailed because you were so focused on your purpose, which was redeeming us. And so when you ask us to emulate that, to walk in your ways, to not just be a Christian in what we believe, but in how we live, it is next level. It is not just a slight upgrade in moral behavior, but it is a whole new economy. So God, help us get our head around it and help us lean into it and see the life that comes when we choose to not live in a transactional economy, but to be guided by what you have done, which is more than we deserve. So we are grateful and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.